We often overestimate the change in the next 2 years and underestimate the change in the next 10. The opportunities ahead are enormous, but to seize them, focus on long-term investments and smart decisions. That's how you build lasting wealth. Bill Gates. A Millionaire's Playbook, Easy Ways to Make and Manage Money. Written and published by Listen Grow Sleep. Introduction. The hidden truth about creating wealth. Have you ever looked at self-made millionaires and wondered what secrets they know that you don't? I'm going to tell you something that might shock you. The difference between the wealthy and everyone else isn't intelligence. It isn't luck. It isn't even hard work, though that's certainly part of it. The difference is understanding a fundamental truth about wealth that most people never grasp. Money doesn't come from chasing money. It comes from solving problems. Right now, you're standing at a crossroads. In one direction lies more of the same, more trading time for money, more living paycheck to paycheck, more watching others achieve the financial freedom you know you deserve. In the other, a life of abundance, opportunity, and freedom. And the distance between these two paths? One shift in how you think about and approach money. Did you know that of the world's ultra-wealthy, those with net worths over $30 million, 68% are self-made? They didn't inherit their fortunes. They created them by understanding and applying the principles I'm about to share with you. When you finish this audiobook, you'll have the exact blueprint that self-made millionaires use to build wealth. You'll know precisely how to identify valuable problems, create scalable solutions, and build systems that generate money whether you're working or not. But I have to warn you, this isn't about get-rich-quick schemes or manifesting money while sitting on your couch. This is about strategic wealth creation. This is about making real decisions and taking real steps toward financial independence. So let me ask you a question. Are you ready to make that one shift that will change everything about your financial future? Are you ready to stop chasing money and start creating wealth? If your answer is yes, then let's begin. Chapter 1. The Money Illusion. Why most people never build wealth. Have you ever received a raise only to find yourself still struggling financially months later? You're not alone. Studies show that 95% of people who increase their income fail to increase their wealth. 95%. But here's what's interesting. It's not because people don't want to build wealth. It's because they're caught in what I call the money illusion. The money illusion is the mistaken belief that making more money automatically leads to building wealth, that merely earning more is enough to become wealthy. Let me tell you about Michael, a talented professional I worked with. Michael had worked his way up to a six-figure salary, more money than his parents had ever made combined. By all conventional measures, he was successful. Yet despite earning over $100,000 per year, Michael had less than $5,000 in savings, mounting credit card debt, and a growing sense of financial anxiety. What was happening to Michael happens to millions of people every single day. They confuse income with wealth. They mistake earning for building. Here's the shocking truth. Your income has very little to do with your wealth. Wealth isn't about what you earn. It's about what you keep, what you grow, and most importantly, what you build, that generates income without your active time and effort. When you focus solely on increasing your salary, you're essentially declaring allegiance to a broken system. You're saying, I want to keep trading my limited time for money, just at a higher rate. Cherry. And your financial future's immediate response? Limitation. It starts feeding you thoughts like, if I could just make X more dollars per year, I'd be set. I need to work harder to get that promotion. If I can just hang on until retirement, my pension 401k will save me. Rich people are just lucky, unethical, born into money. Sound familiar? This internal dialogue creates what economists call lifestyle inflation. As your income increases, so do your expenses, leaving you no better off financially than you were before. And to resolve this discomfort, most people don't change their approach to financial freedom. They change their expectations about what's possible for them. They lower their financial goals. They rationalize their lack of progress. They convince themselves that money isn't everything anyway, and that wealth is only for the lucky or privileged few. And just like that, another dream of financial independence gets buried in the graveyard of unfulfilled potential. But it doesn't have to be this way for you. The first step to breaking free from the money illusion is understanding that wealth creation isn't about income, it's about strategy. A high salary is like a sugar rush. It feels great in the moment, but without the right strategy, it doesn't lead to lasting financial health. That's why a doctor making $300,000 a year can still be broke, while someone who never made more than $70,000 a year can retire a millionaire. What you need instead is a system, a strategic approach that transforms your income, whatever it may be, into assets that work for you rather than you working for them. In the coming chapters, I'll show you exactly how to create that system. But first, let's address another critical reason. Most people fail to build wealth. They're looking in entirely the wrong direction. Most people focus on what I call income thinking rather than asset thinking. Income thinking focuses on maximizing the money you make from your own efforts, your salary, your hourly rate, your commissions. It's about trading your limited time for money. Asset thinking, by contrast, focuses on creating and acquiring things that generate money for you. Businesses, investments, intellectual property, systems. It's about having money work for you, even while you sleep. Let me show you the difference. Income thinking. How can I earn more money at my job? Asset thinking. How can I create or acquire assets that generate income whether I'm working or not? How can I solve valuable problems in a way that scales without requiring more of my time? Do you see the difference? The income approach keeps you trapped in the time for money exchange. The asset approach breaks you free from that limitation. When Rose Blumpkin, a Russian immigrant who couldn't read or write English, shifted from income thinking to asset thinking, everything changed. Instead of just trying to make more money selling used clothing, she saved $2,500, about $50,000 in today's dollars, and opened a furniture store with a unique approach, selling at lower margins but higher volume with impeccable customer service. That $2,500 investment eventually grew into Nebraska Furniture Mart, which she later sold to Warren Buffett for $60 million, while continuing to work there until she was 103. The lesson? The way you think about money determines whether you'll ever have a lot of it. In the next chapter, I'll show you the exact process for identifying valuable problems that can become assets using what I call the Millionaire's matrix. But before we move on, I want you to understand something crucial. Building wealth isn't about being perfect. It's about being strategic. It's not about making the most money possible at your job. It's about redirecting your focus from earning money to building assets. And most importantly, it's not about getting rich overnight. It's about consistently applying principles that create inevitable financial freedom. Because at the end of the day, the greatest reward of building wealth isn't what you buy. It's the freedom you create in the process. Are you ready to become the person who doesn't just earn money, but actually builds wealth? Then let's continue. Chapter 2, The Millionaire's Matrix, Finding Problems Worth Solving. Imagine for a moment that I asked you to guess what business a man named Jack Taylor was in, and I gave you this clue. His company now hires more college graduates each year than any other company in America. You might guess technology, healthcare, or finance. But would you guess car rentals? Jack Taylor was a used car salesman who, at age 40, took 17 rental cars and built Enterprise Rent-A-Car into a company worth more than Hertz, Avis, and all other rental car companies combined. How did he do it? Did he invent a revolutionary new vehicle? Did he have access to exclusive locations or proprietary technology? Number, he simply identified a problem worth solving, and he solved it better than anyone else. This is the essence of what I call the Millionaire's Matrix, a framework for identifying and evaluating problems that can be transformed into wealth-building opportunities. But here's the problem. Most people look for business ideas or investment opportunities in all the wrong places. They chase trends, follow the crowd, or worse. They start with what they want to sell rather than what people actually need. This approach is backward. Sustainable wealth doesn't come from pushing products or services onto people. It comes from solving real problems that people are willing to pay to have solved. Let me introduce you to the Millionaire's Matrix, a framework that will transform how you identify wealth-building opportunities forever. P stands for problem identification, finding real pain points that people or businesses experience regularly and intensely. A stands for addressable market, determining how many people or organizations have this problem and can afford to pay for a solution. I stands for income potential, calculating how much people are willing to pay to have this problem solved. D stands for deliverability, assessing your capability to create and provide a viable solution. S stands for scalability, evaluating whether the solution can grow without requiring a proportional increase in your time and effort. Now, let me show you how this works in practice. Let's look at how Jack Taylor applied what would become the Millionaire's Matrix to create Enterprise Rent-A-Car. For problem identification, Jack observed that while existing rental car companies focused on airport travelers, there was another untapped market. People whose cars were being repaired or who needed temporary transportation locally. This was a real, regular, and intense pain point for millions. For addressable market, he calculated that virtually every city and town in America had people who needed temporary transportation while their cars were in the shop, a massive market that was being completely overlooked. For income potential, he determined that people would gladly pay a reasonable daily rate for the convenience of having a rental car delivered to them, rather than having to find transportation to an airport rental counter. For deliverability, Jack knew the car rental business from his experience in car sales and leasing. He understood the economics and operations of managing a fleet of vehicles. For scalability, he created a system where local offices could operate independently but under the same brand and procedures, allowing for rapid expansion without his direct involvement in each location. The result? From those 17 cars, Enterprise grew to a fleet of over 1.7 million vehicles, with more than 9,500 locations, generating over $22 billion in annual revenue. This wasn't about luck or privilege. It was about seeing a problem others missed and creating a scalable solution. Now, I want to address a common misunderstanding about problem identification. Many people think that to build significant wealth, you need to solve some world-changing problem or create a revolutionary technology. That's simply not true. Some of the greatest fortunes have been built by solving ordinary problems in extraordinary ways. Take Rose Blumpkin, the Russian immigrant I mentioned earlier. The problem she solved: people wanted quality furniture at lower prices with honest, straightforward service. That's it. There was nothing revolutionary about selling furniture. But her approach to solving this common problem was exceptional. She famously promised, "Sell cheap and tell the truth," offering prices so low that customers would travel hundreds of miles to shop at her store. Her solution to this everyday problem eventually built a business that now does over $1.5 billion in annual sales. The key insight here is that valuable problems don't have to be complex or novel. They just have to be real and widespread. So how do you identify these problems in your own life? Here are 3 powerful techniques. First, the frustration inventory. For 1 week, carry a small notebook or use a notes app on your phone. Every time you or someone around you expresses frustration about something, anything, write it down. I hate how long this takes. Why is this so expensive? There should be a better way to do this. These complaints are gold mines of potential problems worth solving. Second, the industry inefficiency scan. Choose an industry you're familiar with and ask, what processes in this industry are unnecessarily complicated, expensive, or time-consuming? What makes customers or professionals in this field roll their eyes in frustration? These friction points represent valuable problems. Third, the expenditure analysis. Review your own spending for the past 3 months. For each significant expense, ask, why did I pay for this? What problem was I trying to solve? Then ask, could this problem be solved better, faster, or more affordably? Your own spending habits can reveal problems others are also paying to solve. These techniques aren't just theoretical exercises, they're practical tools for identifying the first component of the Millionaire's matrix: valuable problems. Once you've identified potential problems, you need to run them through the rest of the matrix to determine which ones represent the best wealth-building opportunities. For addressable market, ask, how many people have this problem? Where are they located? How easily can I reach them? Can they afford to pay for a solution? For income potential, ask, how much pain does this problem cause? How much would people pay to solve it? Is this a one-time purchase or a recurring need? For deliverability, ask, do I have or can I acquire the skills, knowledge, and resources to create an effective solution? What would it take to get started? For scalability, ask, can this solution be replicated or expanded without a proportional increase in my time and effort? Can it be systematized, automated, or delegated? The problems that score highest across all 5 dimensions of the Millionaire's matrix represent your most promising opportunities for wealth creation. But there's an additional dimension that's worth considering: uniqueness. Is there something about your background, skills, knowledge, or resources that gives you a unique advantage in solving this particular problem? This is what I call your unfair advantage, the factor that makes you especially well positioned to create a solution that others can't easily duplicate. For Jack Taylor, his unfair advantage was his deep understanding of the car business combined with his insight about the untapped local rental market. For Rose Blumpkin, it was her extraordinary work ethic, her commitment to customer service, and her willingness to operate on lower margins than competitors. What's your unfair advantage? What unique combination of experiences, skills, and insights do you possess that could give you an edge in solving a particular problem? Identifying your unfair advantage doesn't mean you need to have some rare genius or special talent. Often, it's simply a matter of connecting dots that others haven't connected. Perhaps you've worked in an industry where you've seen inefficiencies firsthand. Maybe you've experienced a problem personally that gave you insights others don't have. Or perhaps you have access to resources or relationships that could be leveraged to create a unique solution. The intersection of valuable problems and your unfair advantage is where extraordinary wealth-building opportunities are found. As we conclude this chapter, I want to emphasize a crucial point. The Millionaire's Matrix isn't about finding a perfect opportunity with no competition or challenges. Such opportunities rarely exist. Instead, it's about identifying problems where the potential rewards significantly outweigh the difficulties of creating a solution, and where you have some meaningful advantage in addressing the problem. In the next chapter, we'll explore the solution scaling system, how to create solutions to these problems that can grow exponentially without requiring a proportional increase in your time and effort. But before we move on, I invite you to spend at least 1 hour applying the Millionaire's Matrix to identify potential wealth-building opportunities in your own life. Use the 3 problem identification techniques we discussed, then run the most promising problems through the full matrix. Remember, every self-made millionaire started exactly where you are now, recognizing a problem that needed solving and deciding to be the one to solve it. Your $1 million problem is out there, waiting for you to discover it. Chapter 3. The Solution. Scaling System. Building wealth without trading time. Have you ever noticed how the wealthiest people in the world seem to make money while they sleep? Elon Musk doesn't personally build each Tesla. Jeff Bezos doesn't package your Amazon orders. Sarah Blakely doesn't sew each pair of Spanx. Yet their wealth continues to grow, often by millions or even billions, whether they're working or not. What separates these wealth creators from even the highest paid professionals? The surgeons, attorneys, and executives who earn substantial incomes but must continue working to maintain their lifestyles. The answer lies in what I call the solution scaling system, the framework that transforms a valuable solution into a wealth-generating asset that doesn't depend on your personal time and effort. This is where most aspiring entrepreneurs and investors go wrong. They create a solution to a problem, but that solution remains dependent on them. They've essentially created a job for themselves, not a wealth-building asset. Let me tell you about Derek, a brilliant consultant who was earning $300,000 a year advising companies on operational efficiency. By most standards, he was extremely successful. But Derek had a problem. His income was directly tied to his time. If he wanted to earn more, he had to work more. If he got sick or wanted to take a vacation, his income stopped. He was trapped in what I call the high-income, low-wealth paradox. When Derek came to me, he was exhausted, overworked, and frustrated that despite his substantial income, he wasn't building real wealth or creating the freedom he desired. That's when we implemented the solution scaling system, transforming his expertise from a time-bound service into a scalable asset. S stands for systematize your solution, creating clear, repeatable processes that deliver consistent results without requiring your personal involvement in every step. C stands for C-loan your capabilities, training others to deliver aspects of your solution or creating tools that replicate your expertise. A stands for automate repetitive tasks, using technology to handle routine aspects of delivering your solution. L stands for leverage other resources, utilizing other people's time, money, or platforms to expand your reach. E stands for expand through multiplication, creating multiple revenue streams from the same core solution. Here's how Derek applied the solution scaling system to transform his consulting practice. For Systematize, Derek documented his entire operational efficiency methodology, creating a step-by-step process that could be followed by others. This turned his tacit knowledge, the expertise in his head, into explicit knowledge that could be shared and replicated. For Clone, he hired and trained 3 junior consultants who could implement his methodology with clients, while he focused on high-level strategy and securing new business. This multiplied his capacity without requiring more of his time. For Automate, Derek created digital assessment tools that clients could use to identify their operational inefficiencies before ever speaking with a consultant. This automated a time-consuming part of his process and provided value to prospects before they became clients. For Leverage, he partnered with software companies that served his target market, creating co-branded workshops and resources that gave him access to their customer base without the cost of acquiring those customers himself. For Expand, Derek developed multiple offerings from his core expertise: a book, an online course, a certification program for internal efficiency specialists, and a software tool that implemented aspects of his methodology automatically. The result? Within 18 months, Derek's income had doubled to $600,000, but more importantly, only about 20% of that income required his active time. He had transformed his solution from a service that he delivered personally to an asset that generated wealth whether he was working or not. This is the power of the solution scaling system. It's the difference between creating a job and building wealth. Now let's examine how some of the most successful wealth creators have applied these same principles, whether they knew it by this name or not. Jack Taylor, the founder of Enterprise Rent-A-Car, didn't try to personally manage every rental transaction or location. Instead, he systematized the rental process, creating consistent procedures that could be replicated across locations. Cloned his capabilities by hiring and training thousands of employees who could deliver the enterprise experience without his involvement. Automated aspects of the business like fleet management, reservations, and billing. Leveraged relationships with auto repair shops and insurance companies to create a steady stream of referrals. Expanded the business model to include fleet services, car sales, and commercial truck rentals, all built on the same core infrastructure. From 17 cars to 1.7 million, Jack Taylor's application of these scaling principles built one of the largest private companies in America. Or consider how Sarah Blakely scaled Spanx from a $5,000 investment into a $1 billion shapewear empire. systematized product development and quality control processes, cloned her capabilities by building a team that could handle manufacturing, marketing, and distribution, automated order processing and fulfillment through e-commerce platforms, leveraged retail partnerships to reach millions of customers without the cost of building her own stores, expanded from a single product, footless pantyhose, to a complete line of shapewear, activewear, and related products. The solution. Scaling system isn't just for building businesses though. It can be applied to any solution you create for a valuable problem. For investors, it might mean systematizing your research process, creating rules-based investment strategies, automating regular contributions, leveraging tax-advantaged accounts, and expanding across different asset classes. For content creators, it might mean systematizing your content production, training assistants, automating distribution, leveraging multiple platforms, and expanding into related revenue streams like merchandise or speaking engagements. For real estate investors, it might mean systematizing your property analysis, hiring property managers, automating tenant screening, leveraging other people's money through financing, and expanding into multiple properties or markets. The specific application varies, but the principles remain the same. True wealth comes from creating solutions that can scale without the proportional increase in your time and effort. Now, I want to address some common objections to this approach. Some people say, but I don't want to build a huge company. I just want to make a good living doing what I love. That's a valid preference, but understand the trade-off. If your income depends on your active time and effort, you'll always be limited by the number of hours in a day, and your income will stop when you stop working. That's not necessarily bad, it's just important to make that choice consciously. Others worry, don't I need a lot of money to start scaling a solution? Not necessarily. Sarah Blakely started Spanx with $5,000. Many software companies started with just the cost of a computer and an internet connection. The key is matching your scaling strategy to your available resources, starting small and reinvesting profits to fuel further growth. Another common concern, what if I'm not an entrepreneur? Can I still apply these principles? Absolutely. The solution scaling system can be applied within existing organizations, like Derek did as a consultant, in investments, or even in how you approach your career. The fundamental shift is from trading time for money to creating assets that work for you. Let me share 3 strategies that anyone can use to begin implementing the solution scaling system, regardless of their current situation. First, the time audit. Track how you spend your working hours for 1 week, categorizing each activity as either scalable, creating systems, building assets, developing intellectual property, or non-scalable, directly delivering services, responding to immediate demands. Then commit to increasing your scalable time by at least 10% each month. Second, the minimalist launch. Instead of waiting until you have the perfect, fully featured solution, identify the simplest version you can create with your current resources. Launch this minimum viable product, gather feedback, and improve while it's already generating income or building your audience. Third, the reinvestment rule. Commit to reinvesting a specific percentage, I recommend at least 50%, of the income from your solution back into scaling activities, technology, training, hiring, marketing, rather than increasing your personal consumption. This creates a compounding effect that accelerates your wealth building. These strategies aren't just theoretical, they're the practical steps that have been used by countless self-made millionaires to transform valuable solutions into wealth-generating assets. As we conclude this chapter, I want to emphasize a crucial point. The solution scaling system isn't about working less, though that's often a wonderful benefit. It's about creating more impact and value than would be possible through your personal efforts alone. The wealthiest people in the world aren't those who command the highest hourly rates. They're those who've created solutions that scale beyond their personal capacity. In the next chapter, we'll explore the wealth acceleration framework, how to leverage your scaled solution to build and compound wealth at an extraordinary rate. But before we move on, I invite you to take one specific action. Choose a valuable activity you currently perform that depends entirely on you, and develop a plan to systematize, clone, automate, leverage, and expand it. This single shift in approach could be worth millions over your lifetime, because when your income no longer depends on your time, your wealth has no limits. Chapter 4: The Wealth Acceleration Framework. Turning money into more money. Have you ever wondered why some entrepreneurs seem to turn everything they touch into gold, while others work just as hard but never achieve real financial freedom? The difference isn't just in how they make money, it's in what they do with that money once they have it. This is where most people's wealth-building journey breaks down. They might solve valuable problems. They might even create scalable solutions. But then, they commit the cardinal sin of wealth creation. They spend their profits instead of leveraging them. They buy the bigger house, the luxury car, the lavish vacations, all the trappings of wealth without the substance. And in doing so, they squander the opportunity to create true financial independence. This is what I call the income trap, the mistaken belief that a high income automatically leads to wealth, when in reality, it's what you do with that income that determines whether you'll ever achieve financial freedom. To avoid this trap, you need the Wealth Acceleration Framework, a systematic approach to transforming the money your solutions generate into a perpetual wealth-building machine. Let me tell you about Emily, a successful online educator who had built a 7-figure business teaching graphic design skills. Her courses were excellent, her marketing was effective, and her business was nicely scaled, requiring only about 10 hours of her time each week while generating over $1.2 million annually. By most measures, Emily was extremely successful, but despite her substantial income, she had less than $100,000 in investments and was constantly worried about the sustainability of her business. She was living well, but wasn't building lasting wealth. That's when we implemented the Wealth Acceleration Framework, transforming her business income into enduring financial freedom. W stands for withdraw strategically, determining the optimal amount to take from your business or income sources for personal use versus wealth building. E stands for elevate your money's productivity, putting your capital to work in assets that generate additional income or appreciation. A stands for align your investments with your knowledge, investing primarily in areas where you have specialized insight or advantages. L stands for leverage assets for multiplication, using debt, partnerships, or platforms that multiply your financial impact. T stands for track performance ruthlessly, measuring and optimizing the return on every dollar deployed. H stands for harvest selectively, knowing when to take profits and redeploy capital for maximum growth. Here's how Emily applied the Wealth Acceleration Framework to transform her business success into lasting wealth. For withdrawal, Emily established a firm profit-first system, automatically directing 30% of all business revenue to tax accounts, 15% to operating expenses, 30% to her personal income, and 25% to a wealth-building fund. This ensured that she was systematically building wealth with every dollar her business earned. For Elevate, she deployed her wealth-building fund into a portfolio of digital properties, other online courses and assets that leveraged her understanding of the online education market but diversified her beyond her own brand and courses. For Align, Emily focused her investments in the areas she understood best: digital businesses, online education companies, and technology platforms serving creative professionals. Her specialized knowledge gave her advantages in evaluating opportunities in these sectors. For Leverage, she partnered with a small investment group to acquire educational technology companies, using a combination of her capital, their capital, and bank financing to make acquisitions that would have been impossible with her resources alone. For Track, Emily implemented quarterly investment reviews, strictly measuring the performance of each asset and redeploying capital from underperforming investments to those generating superior returns. For Harvest, she established clear criteria for when to sell investments, either when they reached a predetermined return target or when better opportunities emerged that justified liquidating existing positions. The result? Within 36 months, Emily had transformed her financial reality. While her business continued to generate excellent income, she had also built an investment portfolio worth over $3 million, creating a level of financial security that her business alone could never provide. This is the power of the wealth acceleration framework. It's the difference between making money and building wealth that lasts for generations. Now, let's examine how some of the most successful wealth creators have applied these same principles. Warren Buffett, often considered the greatest investor of all time, exemplifies the wealth acceleration framework in action. Withdraws only a minimal salary from his company, Berkshire Hathaway, reinvesting almost all profits back into additional investments. Elevates his capital's productivity by focusing on businesses with high returns on invested capital. Aligns his investments with his specialized knowledge of insurance, consumer brands, and basic industries he understands well. Leverages insurance float, premiums collected but not yet paid out as claims, to multiply his investing capacity. Tracks performance through detailed annual reports and clear performance metrics. Harvests investments selectively, often holding great businesses indefinitely, but selling when his original investment thesis no longer applies. From a starting point of just $9,800, Buffett has built a personal net worth exceeding $100 billion by systematically applying these principles for decades. The wealth acceleration framework isn't just for billionaires, though. It can be applied by anyone who is generating income beyond their immediate living needs, whether that's $100 of extra capacity per month or $100,000. For a small business owner, it might mean withdrawing a reasonable salary, but reinvesting profits into new equipment, marketing, or capabilities that expand the business. For a professional, it might mean living below your means to elevate excess income into income-producing real estate or a portfolio of dividend-paying stocks. For an investor, it might mean aligning your portfolio with specific sectors where you have specialized knowledge, leveraging prudent margin where appropriate, tracking performance against relevant benchmarks, and harvesting gains when better opportunities arise. The specific application varies, but the principles remain the same, transforming income into assets that generate more income, which is then transformed into even more assets, creating a compounding effect that builds wealth exponentially over time. Now, I want to address some common obstacles to implementing this framework. One major obstacle is what I call lifestyle creep, the tendency for expenses to rise as income increases. This is often driven by social comparison and status-seeking behavior. To combat this, I recommend establishing a firm wealth ratio, the percentage of your income that is automatically directed to wealth-building activities before you even see it in your personal accounts. Another obstacle is the liquidity trap, keeping too much money in cash or low-return investments out of fear or uncertainty. While appropriate emergency reserves are essential, excess cash represents a significant opportunity cost. The wealth acceleration framework addresses this by establishing clear deployment criteria for capital. A third common obstacle is scattered focus, trying to invest in too many different areas without developing specialized knowledge in any of them. The A-line principle addresses this by directing you to focus first on areas where you have natural advantages or insights. Let me share 3 strategies that anyone can use to begin implementing the wealth acceleration framework, regardless of their current financial situation. First, the income splitting system. As soon as you receive any money, whether from your job, business, or investments, immediately direct a predetermined percentage, start with at least 10%, but increase as you can, to a separate account designated solely for investments. This money is never to be spent on lifestyle expenses, only deployed into wealth-building assets. Second, the knowledge investment portfolio. Identify the areas where you have specialized knowledge, experience, or insights. Direct at least 80% of your investment capital to these areas, where your knowledge gives you advantages in evaluating opportunities and managing investments. Third, the compound acceleration plan. Commit to reinvesting all returns from your investments for at least the first 5 years or longer, if possible. rather than using those returns for consumption. This creates a powerful compounding effect that substantially accelerates wealth building. These strategies aren't theoretical abstractions. They're the practical steps that have been used by virtually every self-made millionaire to transform high income into lasting wealth. As we conclude this chapter, I want to emphasize a crucial point. The wealth acceleration framework isn't about sacrificing your quality of life today for some distant future benefit. It's about making strategic decisions that create both current comfort and future freedom. By implementing this framework, you create a financial reality where work becomes a choice rather than a necessity, where you continue working because you want to, not because you have to. In the next chapter, we'll explore the freedom fulfillment system, how to use your wealth to create a life of meaning, impact, and joy, rather than just accumulating money for its own sake. But before we move on, I invite you to take one specific action. Calculate your current wealth ratio, the percentage of your income that is directed to building assets rather than funding lifestyle. If it's less than 20%, develop a plan to increase it by at least 5% immediately, and then by an additional 5% every 6 months until you reach at least 30%. This single decision, consistently implemented, could literally mean the difference between financial struggle and financial freedom over the course of your lifetime. Because true wealth isn't about what you make, it's about what you keep, grow, and transform into lasting financial independence. Chapter 5. The Freedom Fulfillment System, Using Wealth to Create a Life of Purpose. Have you ever met someone who achieved significant financial success only to find themselves wondering, is this all there is? I've worked with countless millionaires who reached their financial goals but still felt a profound emptiness, a sense that all their wealth hadn't delivered the satisfaction and meaning they expected. This is what I call the achievement void, the discovery that financial freedom alone doesn't automatically create a fulfilling life. Let me tell you about Robert, a technology entrepreneur who had built and sold 3 successful companies by age 45. He had achieved the financial freedom most people only dream about, a net worth exceeding $30 million, multiple homes, and the ability to do whatever he wanted, whenever he wanted. Yet when we first met, Robert confided something surprising. I've never been more miserable in my life. I wake up with no purpose, no direction, and no sense of meaning. I thought wealth would solve everything, but it solved nothing that actually matters. Robert had mastered the mechanics of wealth creation, but had neglected what I call wealth integration, the art of using financial resources to create a life of genuine purpose, connection, and fulfillment. That's when we implemented the Freedom Fulfillment System, a framework for transforming financial independence into a life of genuine meaning and satisfaction. F stands for finding your core values, identifying what truly matters to you beyond money and material success. R stands for realigning your resources, directing your wealth, time, and energy toward what genuinely fulfills you. E stands for experimenting with purpose, testing different avenues for meaning and impact rather than assuming you already know the answer. E stands for engaging authentically, building genuine connections and communities around shared values and interests. D stands for developing lasting impact, creating a legacy that extends beyond your lifetime and financial achievements. O stands for optimizing lifestyle design, crafting your daily existence to maximize meaning, not just comfort or status. M stands for measuring fulfillment metrics, tracking indicators of genuine life satisfaction, not just financial performance. Here's how Robert applied the Freedom Fulfillment System to transform his empty success into genuine fulfillment. For finding his core values, Robert worked through a series of profound reflection exercises. He discovered that what truly mattered to him, beyond all the trappings of wealth, were 3 core values: fostering innovation in young entrepreneurs, environmental conservation, and deep connection with his family. These values had been completely overshadowed by his relentless pursuit of business success. For realigning his resources, Robert restructured his time and capital around these core values. He committed to spending at least 15 hours each week mentoring young entrepreneurs, allocated $5 million to a conservation fund, and blocked sacred, non-negotiable time with his family, including a monthly adventure day with each of his children individually. For experimenting with purpose, Robert tested different approaches to living his values. He tried teaching at a local university, investing in conservation startups, and creating an entrepreneur's fellowship program. Some initiatives resonated deeply, others didn't. This experimentation allowed him to refine his approach to purpose, rather than forcing himself into predetermined roles. For engaging authentically, Robert built genuine relationships around his values rather than his wealth or status. He joined conservation groups as a regular volunteer, not just a donor. He created a peer group of other successful entrepreneurs focused on meaning beyond money. And he initiated honest conversations with his family about what truly mattered to them collectively and individually. For developing lasting impact, Robert established a foundation focused on funding innovative environmental technologies, created an entrepreneurship program for underprivileged youth, and began documenting the wisdom he'd gained for future generations of his family. For optimizing lifestyle design, Robert completely restructured his daily routine to prioritize meaning over efficiency or status. He moved from a prestigious but isolating mansion to a smaller home in a vibrant community. He eliminated status-driven commitments that didn't align with his values and created morning and evening rituals that reinforced his purpose. For measuring fulfillment metrics, Robert established clear indicators of life satisfaction beyond financial performance. These included quarterly life satisfaction assessments, feedback from mentees on his impact, conservation outcomes from his environmental investments, and relationship quality surveys with his family members. The result? Within a year, Robert reported a profound transformation. "I've gone from dreading each day to waking up with genuine excitement," he told me. "For the first time, my wealth feels like a tool for creating meaning rather than a substitute for it." This is the power of the freedom fulfillment system. It's the difference between being financially rich but spiritually poor and creating true wealth in all dimensions of life. Now, let's explore how some of the world's most successful wealth creators have applied these same principles to create lives of extraordinary meaning and impact. Take Bill Gates, who after building one of the world's largest fortunes, found his greatest fulfillment in applying those resources to global health and development challenges through the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. He found his core values in global equity and opportunity, realigned his resources toward these causes, experimented with different approaches to philanthropy, engaged with experts and affected communities, developed institutional structures for lasting impact, optimized his approach based on measurable outcomes, and measured success not by dollars spent, but by lives improved. Or consider Chuck Feeney, the co-founder of Duty Free Shoppers Group, who made billions but lived modestly while secretly giving away nearly his entire fortune to causes he believed in. His approach embodied the freedom fulfillment system in action, using wealth as a tool for expressing deeply held values rather than as an end in itself. The freedom fulfillment system isn't just for billionaires, though. It can be applied by anyone who has achieved a level of financial stability or independence, whether that means $100,000 in the bank or $100 million. For a small business owner, it might mean defining why your business exists beyond making money, realigning your company's resources toward that purpose, experimenting with different approaches to expressing your values through your business, engaging authentically with customers and employees, developing a business that creates lasting positive impact, optimizing your operations to maximize meaning as well as profit, and measuring success by more than just the bottom line. For a professional who has achieved financial stability, it might mean finding ways to apply your skills to causes you care about, realigning your career path toward more meaningful work, experimenting with different forms of contribution, engaging with communities that share your values, developing expertise that creates lasting impact, optimizing your work-life integration around what truly matters, and measuring career success by fulfillment rather than just advancement or compensation. The specific application varies, but the principles remain the same. True wealth isn't measured by what you have, but by the meaning and purpose you create with what you have. Now, I want to address some common obstacles to implementing this framework. One major obstacle is what I call identity attachment, the tendency to define yourself by your financial success or professional title. Many financially successful people struggle to separate who they are from what they've achieved or accumulated. To overcome this, I recommend a simple but profound exercise. Write your own eulogy as you'd want it to be read, focusing on the impact you had on others and the values you embodied, not your financial achievements or possessions. Another obstacle is purpose paralysis. Feeling overwhelmed by the question of what gives your life meaning, especially if you've been focused on financial achievement for decades. The experimenting component addresses this by encouraging small tests rather than expecting an immediate, perfect answer. Try different avenues for creating meaning, collect feedback, and refine your approach over time. A third common obstacle is significance addiction, the habit of deriving self-worth from achievement and recognition rather than from living in alignment with your values. This often drives wealthy individuals to continue pursuing more money long after they have enough, or to engage in conspicuous philanthropy focused more on recognition than impact. The freedom fulfillment system addresses this by shifting focus from external validation to internal alignment. Let me share 3 strategies that anyone can use to begin implementing the freedom fulfillment system, regardless of their financial situation. First, the values clarification process. Set aside a full day for deep reflection. Ask yourself, what moments in my life have felt most meaningful and why? What would I regret not doing or being if my life ended unexpectedly? What activities make me lose track of time because I'm so engaged? The patterns in your answers reveal your core values. Second, the resource audit. Take inventory of all your resources, not just money, but time, attention, skills, relationships, and influence. For each resource, ask, is this currently deployed in alignment with my core values or diverted to less meaningful purposes? Then commit to reallocating at least 20% of each resource toward what truly matters to you. Third, the FULFILLMENTFEEDBACK loop. Establish a regular practice, I recommend monthly, of assessing your life satisfaction across key dimensions: purpose, relationships, personal growth, health, and contribution to others. Rate each area from 1 to 10, identify what's working and what isn't, and make conscious adjustments. This prevents you from drifting away from what truly matters. These strategies aren't abstract concepts. They're practical steps that have helped thousands of financially successful people transform empty achievement into genuine fulfillment. As we conclude this chapter, I want to emphasize a crucial point. The freedom fulfillment system isn't about abandoning financial success for some austere, purely altruistic existence. It's about ensuring that your financial success becomes a platform for creating a life rich in all dimensions: purpose, connection, growth, and contribution. In the final analysis, money is like oxygen, necessary for life but not the purpose of life. Once you have enough, your focus should shift from getting more to using what you have to create meaning. In the next chapter, we'll explore the legacy acceleration strategy, how to ensure that the wealth and wisdom you've created continue to generate positive impact for generations to come. But before we move on, I invite you to take one specific action. Schedule a purpose day, a full day dedicated to working through the values clarification process we discussed. Turn off all distractions, find a peaceful setting, and dive deep into what truly matters to you beyond financial success. This single day could completely transform your relationship with wealth, shifting it from an end in itself to a powerful tool for creating a life of extraordinary meaning and impact. Because at the end of the day, the greatest wealth isn't what's in your bank account. It's the purpose, connection, and meaning you create with what you have. Chapter 6. The Legacy Acceleration Strategy, Extending Your Impact Through Generations. Have you ever thought about what will happen to your wealth after you're gone? Will it create lasting positive impact for your family and the causes you care about? Or will it dissipate through taxes, poor management, and lack of vision? This question isn't just for the ultra-wealthy. Whether you've built a business, accumulated investments, or simply want to pass on financial wisdom to your children, how you handle the transition of your wealth and values determines whether your financial success becomes a multi-generational blessing or a short-lived achievement. This is where most wealth creators fall short. They focus intensely on building wealth, but neglect the equally important work of transferring wealth, not just financial capital, but also intellectual, social, and human capital. The statistics are sobering. 70% of wealthy families lose their wealth by the second generation, and 90% lose it by the third. This is what I call the shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in 3 generations phenomenon. But it doesn't have to be this way. With the right framework, you can ensure that the wealth you've created continues to generate positive impact long after you're gone. Let me tell you about Thomas, a successful business owner who had built a mid-sized manufacturing company worth approximately $15 million. He had 2 children and 5 grandchildren, and he worried constantly about how his wealth would affect them after he was gone. I don't want to raise trust fund kids who never develop their own capabilities, he told me. But I also want to provide opportunities and security for my family. And beyond my family, I want the business I've built to continue serving our employees and community. Thomas was facing what I call the legacy dilemma, the challenge of transferring wealth in ways that empower rather than entitle future generations, while also creating lasting impact beyond the family. That's when we implemented the Legacy Acceleration Strategy, a framework for ensuring that your wealth, wisdom, and values continue to create positive impact across generations. L stands for Values Linkage. Connecting your financial resources to your core values and communicating those connections explicitly to heirs and stakeholders. E stands for Education before Assets. Prioritizing financial literacy, business acumen, and values development in the next generation before they receive significant assets. G stands for Governance Structures, creating clear systems for how wealth will be managed, decisions made, and conflicts resolved across generations. A stands for Asset Protection, implementing legal, tax, and investment strategies that preserve wealth against unnecessary erosion, from taxes, lawsuits, and poor management. C stands for Communication Protocols, establishing regular, transparent communication about wealth, expectations, opportunities, and responsibilities. Y stands for Yielding Control Strategically, developing a thoughtful approach to gradually transferring decision-making authority to the next generation. Here's how Thomas applied the Legacy Acceleration Strategy to transform his concerns into confidence. For values linkage, Thomas created a detailed family wealth mission statement that explicitly connected his core values: entrepreneurship, service to others, education, and environmental stewardship, to specific wealth transfer plans. For instance, he established that family business distributions would be higher for family members who started their own businesses or worked in service-oriented professions. For education before assets, Thomas established a comprehensive family financial literacy program. Before any family member could receive significant distributions, they had to complete courses in personal finance, business fundamentals, philanthropy, and family wealth dynamics. He also created a family bank that would provide seed funding for entrepreneurial ventures by family members, but only after they'd developed viable business plans that were reviewed by experienced advisors. For governance structures, Thomas established a family council with clear bylaws, decision-making processes, and conflict resolution procedures. This council would make decisions about family assets, philanthropy, and business involvement based on established principles rather than ad hoc judgments or emotions. For asset protection, Thomas worked with specialized advisors to create a sophisticated but practical structure of trusts, insurance policies, business succession plans, and investment strategies that would preserve family wealth against unnecessary taxation, potential lawsuits, and market volatility. For communication protocols, Thomas instituted quarterly family meetings to discuss wealth matters openly, annual family retreats focused on values and vision, and regular education sessions about the family business and investments. He also created age-appropriate ways to involve even young children in philanthropic decisions, helping them develop a healthy relationship with wealth from an early age. For yielding control, Thomas developed a 15-year plan for gradually transferring leadership of his business and management of family assets to the next generation. This included clearly defined phases of increasing responsibility, specific milestones that would trigger greater authority, and thoughtful mentoring relationships with both family and non-family advisors. The result? Thomas transformed from anxious to confident about his legacy. For the first time, he told me, I feel certain that what I've built will continue to benefit my family and community for generations to come. Not because I'm controlling things from the grave, but because I've created systems and developed capabilities that will outlast me. This is the power of the legacy acceleration strategy. It's the difference between wealth that dissipates within a generation or two and wealth that creates positive impact for decades or even centuries. Now, let's examine how some of the world's most successful wealth creators have applied these same principles to create lasting legacies. The Rockefeller family provides a powerful example of effective multi-generational wealth transfer. Now in their 7th generation of wealth, the Rockefellers have maintained both significant financial assets and a strong family identity centered on shared values. They've done this through values linkage, maintaining a clear connection to the family's core values of stewardship, excellence, integrity, and respect. Education, creating extensive programs to develop financial and philanthropic capabilities in each generation. Governance, establishing sophisticated family office structures with clear decision-making protocols. Asset protection, implementing diversified investment strategies and thoughtful trust structures. Communication, holding regular family meetings and maintaining detailed family archives and histories. Yielding control, gradually involving each new generation in increasingly significant decisions about family assets and philanthropy. The legacy acceleration strategy isn't just for billionaire families, though. It can be applied by anyone who wants their financial success to benefit future generations and causes they care about. For a business owner, it might mean creating a clear succession plan, developing next-generation leadership, establishing governance structures that will outlast the founder, protecting business assets through appropriate legal structures, maintaining open communication with family members and key employees about the future, and gradually transferring authority to qualified successors. For an investor, it might mean documenting your investment philosophy and strategies, educating heirs about financial concepts and approaches, creating appropriate trust structures, protecting assets through diversification and insurance, discussing financial matters openly with family members, and gradually involving children or grandchildren in investment decisions. For parents with modest assets, it might mean clearly connecting your values to financial decisions, focusing on developing financial capability in your children, creating simple but clear guidelines for inheritance, protecting what you have through basic estate planning, maintaining open conversations about money with age-appropriate transparency, and gradually giving children increasing financial responsibility as they demonstrate readiness. The specific application varies, but the principles remain the same. Effective wealth transfer requires transferring not just financial capital, but also intellectual capital, knowledge and skills, social capital, relationships and connections, and human capital, values and character. Now, I want to address some common obstacles to implementing this framework. One major obstacle is immortality illusion, the tendency to avoid or postpone legacy planning, because it requires acknowledging our own mortality. Many successful wealth creators are action-oriented optimists who find it difficult to confront the reality that they won't live forever. To overcome this, I recommend reframing legacy planning not as preparing for death, but as extending your impact, ensuring that what you've built continues to reflect your values and benefit others. Another obstacle is control addiction, the difficulty many wealth creators have in gradually ceding authority to others, particularly the next generation. Having built their success through personal capability and decision-making, they struggle to trust others with what they've created. The yielding component addresses this by creating a structured, gradual process for transferring control rather than an abrupt handover. A third common obstacle is values assumption, the mistaken belief that heirs will automatically understand and share your values regarding wealth, work, philanthropy, and opportunity. Without explicit communication and demonstration of these values, the next generation often develops very different perspectives. The values linkage and communication components address this by making values explicit and creating regular opportunities to discuss and demonstrate them. Let me share 3 strategies that anyone can use to begin implementing the legacy acceleration strategy, regardless of their financial situation. First, the ethical will exercise. Unlike a legal will that transfers your assets, an ethical will transfers your values, wisdom, and hopes for future generations. Set aside time to write a letter to your heirs explaining what money has meant in your life, what you've learned about it, what opportunities and responsibilities you hope it will create for them, and what principles you hope will guide their own relationship with wealth. Second, the next generation development plan. Create a specific roadmap for helping your heirs develop the capabilities they'll need to responsibly manage whatever assets they'll receive. This should include financial literacy, of course, but also communication skills, decision-making capabilities, conflict resolution approaches, and an understanding of your family's values and history. Third, the legacy structure review. Assess your current estate plan, business succession strategy, and wealth transfer mechanisms against the legacy acceleration strategy framework. Identify gaps or misalignments between your stated intentions and the actual structures you have in place, then work with appropriate advisors to address these disconnects. These strategies aren't theoretical abstractions. They're practical steps that have helped thousands of wealth creators ensure that their financial success creates lasting positive impact. As we conclude our journey together, I want to emphasize a crucial point. The legacy acceleration strategy isn't about controlling future generations or imposing your will from beyond the grave. It's about providing both resources and guidance that empower your heirs and the causes you care about to thrive long after you're gone. In the final analysis, the most meaningful measure of your financial success isn't what you accumulated during your lifetime, but what continues to grow and create positive impact after you're gone. Now, let's bring together everything we've discussed in this book. The Money Illusion taught us that true wealth isn't about income, but about building assets that work for you. The Millionaire's Matrix showed us how to identify valuable problems worth solving. The solution scaling system provided a framework for creating solutions that grow without requiring more of your time. The Wealth Acceleration Framework revealed how to transform money into more money through strategic deployment. The Freedom Fulfillment System guided us in using wealth to create lives of genuine purpose and meaning. And finally, the Legacy Acceleration Strategy has shown us how to ensure that what we've built continues to create positive impact for generations to come. Together, these frameworks provide a comprehensive blueprint for not just creating financial success, but for ensuring that this success translates into genuine well-being, meaning, and positive impact, both during your lifetime and long after. As you implement these strategies, remember that true wealth isn't measured by dollars in a bank account. It's measured by the freedom, purpose, relationships, and positive impact you create with the resources you've been entrusted with. I invite you to take one final action as we conclude. Schedule a legacy day, a full day dedicated to beginning your ethical will, drafting a family wealth mission statement, and reviewing your current estate plans against the Legacy Acceleration Strategy framework. This single day could be the difference between wealth that dissipates within a generation or two and wealth that creates positive impact for decades or even centuries to come. The choice is yours, and that choice, more than any economic factor, lucky break, or inherited advantage, will determine whether you join the ranks of the financially free or remain trapped in the cycle of income dependence. I believe in your potential to create extraordinary wealth and meaning. Now it's time for you to believe it too, not just in thought, but in action. Your millionaire journey doesn't end with the closing of this book. It begins now. The decision is yours.
Chapter 7. The Decision Matrix. Your wealth journey begins now.
You've reached the end of this book, but you stand at the beginning of your wealth journey. Right now, at this very moment, you face what I call the ultimate decision point. The crossroads where your financial future will be determined not by what you've read, but by what you'll do. Let me be direct with you. Knowledge without action is merely entertainment. The frameworks, strategies, and insights I've shared with you have the power to completely transform your financial reality, but only if you implement them, only if you move from passive consumption to active creation. This is where 95% of people stop. They close the book, feeling temporarily inspired but ultimately unchanged. They return to the same patterns, the same limiting beliefs, and ultimately the same financial results. But I believe you're different. I believe you're part of the 5% who will actually use what you've learned to create extraordinary wealth and meaning. To help you take that crucial step from knowledge to implementation, I want to leave you with one final framework, what I call the decision matrix. D stands for decide what matters most. Commit to the specific financial future you want to create with absolute clarity and conviction. E stands for eliminate distractions. Remove anything from your life that doesn't align with your wealth building priorities. C stands for commit to daily action. Take at least one wealth building step every single day, no matter how small. I stands for invest in your capabilities. Continuously develop the skills, knowledge, and mindset required for wealth creation. S stands for surround yourself strategically. Build relationships with others who support and enhance your wealth building journey. I stands for ITERATE, based on results. Measure your progress, learn from setbacks, and continuously refine your approach. O stands for own your outcomes. Take 100% responsibility for your financial results without blame or excuses. N stands for never settle for less. Maintain unwavering standards for the wealth and impact you're committed to creating. The decision matrix isn't just another theoretical framework. It's the bridge between everything you've learned and the life-changing results you desire. Every self-made millionaire I've ever worked with has crossed this bridge. They've moved from knowing to doing, from planning to implementing, from dreaming to creating. As we part ways, I want to leave you with one final thought. Your financial future won't be determined by economic conditions, market fluctuations, or even the opportunities that come your way. It will be determined by the decisions you make starting right now. The decision to solve valuable problems instead of just trading time for money. The decision to create scalable solutions instead of limiting yourself to personal effort. The decision to transform income into assets instead of merely funding lifestyle. The decision to align wealth with purpose instead of accumulating money for its own sake. The decision to build a lasting legacy instead of focusing solely on short-term gains. These decisions, made consistently with conviction and courage, are what separate those who merely desire wealth from those who actually achieve it. So I'll ask you one final question. What decision will you make today? Will you set this book aside and continue on the same financial path you've been on? Or will you take immediate, decisive action to implement what you've learned, to begin solving valuable problems, creating scalable solutions, and building lasting wealth? The choice is yours. And that choice, more than any economic factor, lucky break, or inherited advantage, will determine whether you join the ranks of the financially free or remain trapped in the cycle of income dependence. I believe in your potential to create extraordinary wealth and meaning. Now it's time for you to believe it too, not just in thought, but in action. Your millionaire journey doesn't end with the closing of this book. It begins now. The decision is yours.